Welcome to the College Basketball Pub Hub Show, Saturday, March 11th. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack will be joined by Cab very soon as well, ready to break down a Saturday of conference tournament championship basketball. Yeah, it's pretty much, well, there's a few tournaments that are still in the semifinal round, but a lot of championship games today. We're going to see some more automatic bids and tickets punched to the NCAA tournament as well. So this will be a very exciting Saturday. We saw some crazy games yesterday, crazy results, crazy finish with Southern Utah and Utah Valley. I still can't get over what I saw there in that WAC
Crazy.
semifinal. 20-plus point deficit erased, and the exclamation point was a 4-point play. You don't foul someone on a 3-point shot, and unfortunately, Utah Valley did, and they're going home, having a 20-point lead, blowing it to Southern Utah. So I can't believe how that game ended. It was nuts there in the
No.
WAC, right in your neck of the woods, C-Mac.
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna get to these games today and tomorrow. So I don't know where I'm going. But I'm gonna go to a couple of these.
All right, good stuff. We don't know where the travels will take CMAC, but it'll take
Well,
him
I
to one
got
of these.
five choices. You know.
Yeah, you got it's a smorgasbord of conference tournaments. You got a little Big West. You got if you want to go all the way out to Anderson at Dollar Loan Center, you got the WAC. You've got the Pac-12 championship tonight. So a lot of options in Las Vegas for championship basketball. All right, let's get into it. We will start with a game that's coming up at the top of the hour. It's actually the first game of the day, one of the first two games of the day. It's the Ivy League semifinals. We've got Cornell taking on Yale. Yale 6.5 point favorites. 150 is the total in this game. Of course, we've got the Jadwin Gymnasium in Princeton. That is where these games will be taking place. Yale, obviously, the number one seed coming into this Ivy League tournament. Terrific conference season and season overall. 20-7. They enter this conference tournament on a 3-game win streak and 9-1 in their last 10 games. They've played extremely well. We'll see if they can carry that over here against Cornell. Cornell, I mean, you talk about a team that from a point spread perspective just was not very good down the stretch, and that's putting it mildly. 1-8 ATS for Cornell down the stretch, and really from a straight up standpoint, not great either. Just 3-6 in their last 9 games. Yale, they played each other twice. They actually split the season series. Cornell won 94-82 at home, and Yale returned the favor 76-58 in the rematch. One game stayed over, one game stayed under. So it's a tough game really to look at it because Yale's gonna try to be a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more of a slower paced team. Cornell plays as fast as any team in college basketball. This total at 150 though, it's very low for Cornell because we see their totals usually mid 150s, high 150s, or even in the 160s. It feels low, but it's a very early game. You have to remember it's 11 a.m. Are the shots going to be falling? Is the offensive, efficiency going to be there for a game that starts this early? I'm not really going to do much with this game. I'm going to wait to see how it's going live and go from there. But I do lean over with the number being at a 150 because it's very low for a Cornell game. What do you think here, Connor?
And maybe you wait here on this total. Because if they don't go, just the other day on Thursday, those early games, St. John's, Marquette, and some of those, there was nothing. Those early starts, they were all dead unders. Those early mornings. So I know, but Cornell, like you mentioned, this team can score. They don't play. Their defense is not great. Yale should be able to do what they want. You mentioned they split the series, but I think Cornell can hang around because they just kind of got beat up that second matchup. It was at Yale. I think at 18. I think they could hang around. I lean the 6.5 with them. They got to play a little defense, but I think they can hit the shots and stay in it here.
All right, the second Ivy League semifinal. It is Penn and Princeton. We've got Princeton 2.5 point favorites, 146.5 the total in this game. I think Jordan Dingle, you can make a case, might be the best player on the court in this game for either team. And when you're talking about these conference tournament games, that's usually a good thing. And those are the things you want to be looking for, is who's going to be the difference maker late. And I love the angle of Penn losing in OT at Princeton, the final game of the Ivy League regular season. Now they get him again here in the conference tournament. Let's not forget Penn was rolling before that loss to Princeton. They had won 8 straight games, maybe one of the hottest teams in the Ivy League. I really like the Princeton side or the Penn side here. Penn Quakers plus 2.5. I think they've, at the very least, make this a one down to the wire game. I think they got a real shot to win this game outright. I think they were actually the team that was in a little bit better form down the stretch than Princeton. So, and they're a slight dog, makes it even better. So 2.5, 2. We're taking the slight dog here, Penn Quakers. What do you think here, Connor?
I get it. I think this game, you mentioned they just went to OT, then they lost it. I get the 2, but I think, as long as you have this number at 145, 146, whatever it is, I take the over. This is the second game a little bit later. Both these teams have been good to me on the over, so I take over 146.5.
Yeah, there's been a lot of teams in the Ivy League that have been good to the over for sure. Columbia's been another one of them. There's a bunch of teams that have definitely been. It's been a higher scoring Ivy League season, no question about that. I would expect points here as well, and I like Penn here. I think Penn gets the job done. I like the way they played down the stretch.
It's moving too.
Yeah,
grab it too. If you wanted it too, because they're starting to be 1.5.
Yeah, exactly. So don't wait to bet that one possibly. All right, the other game at 11 a.m. Eastern, we're going to have a NCAA tournament bid decided here. It's the America East Championship, UMass Lowell and Vermont. It seems like Vermont, Saturday morning, 11 a.m., the day before Selection Sunday. They're always hosting one of these conference tournament championship games on their home floor. It's become a tradition. Vermont, 6.5-point favorites, 141 the total in this game. I'm tempted to take UMass Lowell here. I mean, Vermont's never easy to beat. I can't remember the last time UMass or Vermont lost one of these games. When they hosted the America East Championship game on a Saturday morning. They've been excellent in these kind of spots. They've been blasting teams here so far in this conference tournament. Albany, NJIT, Binghamton, winning all of those games by at least 18 points. So they are rolling right now. What makes Vermont scary to step in front of is it's at both ends of the floor. Offensively, they're moving the ball well like they usually do. And defensively, they've really tightened things up here during the conference tournament. That being said, UMass Lowell's a friggin' really good basketball team, and they can actually match, Vermont at the offensive end of the basketball court. In fact, you measure up these two teams, and UMass Lowell's actually got better offensive numbers across the board than Vermont. They're better points per game, better field goal percentage, better three-point percentage. And if you actually look at the Vermont defensive numbers, they've been very good lately, but for the duration of the season, they're in the 270s, 280s in those field goal percentage defensive numbers. So we'll see if that shows up here in this game. You have a slight free throw advantage as well for UMass Lowell. They shoot 73.2% from the free throw line, 69.4% for Vermont. I think we've got ourselves a competitive game. I know Vermont's looked awesome, but they're playing a similarly awesome. These are the best two teams in the America East. I'm glad they're facing each other here in the conference tournament title game. You want to see that. The best teams all year in the conference face off, especially in these smaller conferences where it's one bid to get into the NCAA tournament. Great early game here, but I'm going to lean to the UMass Lowell side here, plus 6.5. I think even on Vermont's home court, they've got the offense to stay in it. And I think and with those defensive numbers for Vermont for the season being somewhat down, I could see UMass Lowell hanging around here. And they're getting 6.5. It's not like we're asking them to win the game. We're asking them to make this a competitive, back and forth, close type of basketball game. I think they're very capable of doing that. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I think the line is right there here. Vermont's at home. And that's the difference here. I think they can win, but laying 6.5 with them, just because you mentioned the efficiency of Lowell, this team can score. UMass Lowell. I mean, they're just very good. They can shoot the three. You mentioned they're better free throw shooting team. I look at Vermont early. Our guy Tease is on it. I'd maybe look at Vermont early in this game, but full game, I think the points could be handy here. And let's touch on the total. It's this early start. To me, the defenses aren't great. Could this get over, or is this just so early in a championship game this stays under? I couldn't go either way. I'm staying off. So we'll see what happens with the total here.
Yeah, it's a really good game. Looking forward to it there in the America East coming up at the top of the hour. All right, we've got the MEAC Championship. Norfolk State, Howard. Norfolk State 2-point favorites, 144.5 being the total in this game. I'm telling you what, that was a scare for Norfolk State. They were leading pretty much the entire game. yesterday in the semifinals against NC Central, but you never count out a team coached by that Lavelle Moten. He's been there forever at NC Central, and the teams are always good. And they just never went away, and they put the ultimate scare into Norfolk State, and Norfolk State survived with a 72-65 overtime win. Meanwhile, Howard crushed Maryland Eastern Shore 74-55. They have won 4 straight, so they've played good here in this conference tournament. To me, I still lean to Norfolk State just because of the Spartans. To me, they've been the best team in this conference pretty much all season. They're laying 2 though, and they are off an overtime game. So situationally, is there a little bit of is this make this a little bit more difficult? The fact that they had to extend themselves playing against NC Central yesterday, that becomes a big question. And look and another thing too to keep in mind is Howard beat this team twice during the regular season, 86-84 at Norfolk State as 9-point dogs, and beat them again 87-67 when Howard hosted them on March 2nd. So Howard's matched up very well with Norfolk State. So this is a really tough game. I don't have a strong take on it, but I still lean to the team that's been the best team all year. And like I say, don't fall into that trap of saying, well, Howard won the first 2 games, they're going to win this one too. It doesn't always work that way. I still lean Norfolk State, but extending themselves to OT last night does concern me a bit. What do you think here, Connor?
It does. And, before this year, we mentioned how all year long how great Howard's been. Norfolk's kind of owned them before that. They used to just beat up on Howard. And you mentioned they've lost both. I'd take Norfolk here. And I'm going against Howard, which has kind of got me all year. I'm not going to play it, though. This is a watch for me. I'm not going to have my money on it, but I'd be on Norfolk here.
All right, yeah, Norfolk State. I lean that. I probably ain't betting it though. I'll be honest. I mean, we got a lot of games today. This one was one of the trickier ones, in my opinion, because again, Howard's red hot, and they have beaten Norfolk twice. But at the end of the day, I still think Norfolk's been the class of this conference. It seems like it's their tournament to win. We'll see if they can get it done.
They're tired after the OT. We mentioned it. A little scare.
Yeah.
The day before they come out better. But I've been impressed by Howard all year. I thought they've been better than I thought.
And the defense has really tightened up for Howard, which was an issue earlier this season. But they played really good at the defensive end these last few games as well. All right, next up, we've got the Atlantic 10 Conference, the semifinals, St. Louis and VCU. The first semifinal, VCU 4-point favorites, 141 the total in this game. VCU with a pretty easy victory in their quarterfinal tournament game as they took care of business handily against George. And that was St. Louis, rather. No, they beat Davidson pretty comfortably, 71-53. St. Louis just pounded George Mason 82-54 in their last tournament game. That was impressive because I thought George Mason was going to be a team capable of maybe making a run here in this tournament, and St. Louis just said none of that. And they just completely dominated George Mason start to finish. Both ends of the floor, they were terrific. They were making every shot. They held George Mason to 19-52 shooting. VCU beat them twice during the regular season. At St. Louis, 73-65, and then at home, VCU got them 79-67. So VCU looking to complete the 3-game sweep here going into this matchup today versus St. St. But I kind of like St. Louis here, honestly, at +4. I think it's a situation where, I think when you look at it, you know what you're going to get from St. Louis. The press of VCU can be detrimental, and you do have concerns. St. Louis didn't handle it well in the first 2 meetings. That's definitely a concern. But St. Louis was competitive, and it's worth noting, too, there were a couple of key injuries St. Louis had, especially in the second of the 2 games against VCU. Definitely, you look at this game here, I think St. Louis has a better chance to compete here compared to the first 2 meetings. I lean with the points, though, with St. Louis here. Again, not a strong feel, but I feel like I want to take +4 with a team that just beat a team that I think could have made a run in this tournament very impressively. So Billikens +4 for me would be maybe a small bet here for me on that. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, that was a shocker. I thought George Mason played well too down the stretch and just get walloped. But I think VCU is the better team. It's just, days like this, do you want to lay this 4? Or, it's kind of short if you don't mind the money line. This might be one to take because I know they beat them twice and it won't be easy. but I think VCU is the team. I don't know if St. Louis can keep shooting it this well. VCU has the better defense, so I like them here.
Certainly, they played well against VCU. We'll see if that, or if VCU, I should say, has played well against St. Louis. We'll see if that continues here today. All right, Fordham and Dayton, the second A10 semifinal. Dayton 6.5, 7-point favorites, 130 the total in this game. Lots of money rolling in on Dayton, and you know what's been frustrating yesterday is that usually in conference tournaments, I'm used to the underdogs usually being pretty good. Favorites were really good yesterday in conference tournament action. You're starting to see a little flip of the script here in terms of, favorites are starting to perform a lot better here in conference tournaments. Dayton, this is another matchup here where Dayton won the only meeting between these two teams this season very handily, 82-58. They crushed Fordham, and that was at Fordham as well. So, that's a scary proposition here if you're going to trust Fordham in this game. That being said, Dayton, 10.5-point favorites against St. Joe's. They only won by 6. They lost at St. Louis before that. They beat LaSalle, lost to George Mason. There's been a lot of inconsistency of late down the stretch here for Dayton. I think the key here for them is going to be that defense, which is very good. They've got top 20 numbers in points per game allowed, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage defense. That's not going to make it easy on Fordham to score. Fordham's better defensively than offensively a little bit as well. Fordham's not got a bad defense. Dayton on the offensive end of the basketball court, they are more of an post-oriented offense. They are okay shooting the three, but not great. But you look at Fordham, they've actually been pretty solid defensively against, 2-point shots. So that's probably a good sign for Fordham going into this game. Maybe to hang around. The number's getting a little high for me. I would lean Fordham. This one does feel like it probably could be lower scoring, but total in the 129, 130 range. It's pretty low, but it's low for a reason. It does feel like both teams a little bit better at the defensive end of the court. What do you think here, Conor? Second A10 semifinal, Fordham, Dayton.
Yeah, I lean under here, and I might go first half, 60.5 in this one. One thing is for Dayton, they've been a little bit inconsistent, as of late, and I think Fordham remembers the beatdown from earlier. They don't have Elvis for them. I guess he's out for Dayton. He's a guy that really can get the boards for them down below. So I don't love that, but I think points could be a premium here. As much I think Dayton wins this game. I think this number's gone too far, though. I think you take the 6 before 6.5.
All right, good stuff indeed. All right, next up we've got the SEC semifinals here down in Nashville. We've got certainly Missouri and Alabama, the first game here. Alabama 9.5-point favorites, 157.5 being the total here in this game. I think when you look at this matchup here, Missouri, I think, is right on that. This is a fascinating tournament because we've got so many teams now that have played their way into the tournament conversation. Missouri's there after beating Tennessee yesterday, that they could make the tournament. I don't know if they're in or out for sure yet. There's a lot of same with Vanderbilt. We don't know if they're in or out yet, but that they certainly put themselves in the hunt to be in the NCAA tournament at the very least. Missouri beating Tennessee, Vanderbilt beating Kentucky yesterday, but they still might have work to do. So with that in mind, you would expect all-out effort from Missouri. Will it be enough, though? Because when Alabama starts turning up the heat and making their shots like they did in the second half yesterday, you see and playing defense the way they did, that's why they're one of the best teams in the country. So can Missouri handle that here on a back-to-back here against this Alabama team? During the regular season, they could not handle Alabama because Alabama beat them 85-64 in that game. We'll see if they can be better here today in this matchup. But, you look at it, certainly you're going to get very much an incentivized Alabama or Missouri squad because this is a team that definitely needs to try to keep putting these wins on the board to further and cement their tournament case. But I think, Kobe Brown's going to have to go nuts, I think, today if you're Missouri. Keep them in it, but there are some concerns here. Will they try to, maybe throw zone defense out there against Alabama? Alabama can be so good shooting the three. Alabama defensively, when we know they're locked in, they can be great. So, I feel situationally and with all these points, I want to take Missouri, but I don't know if the matchup is going to work too well for them, and I worry about the size deficiencies they might have around the rim against this Alabama team. So, it's tough, but I think Alabama is just too good for them. So I'm probably going to stay off. What do you think here, Connor, with Missouri, Alabama?
Yeah, I think Brown and Hodge need to have big games. They had big games yesterday. I think they have to.
And a lot of their shots were threes late in the game, so that's the thing. When you live by the three, sometimes you die by it.
You die by it. That's just the lone thing. And is this number? Bama just looked, really good, outstanding. As Cab would say yesterday, outstanding. Bama yesterday. It's just laying the 10 here. There's a few of these games. We'll touch on Houston coming up. I don't think I get involved. I don't know if I trust Missouri, but I lean them with the points.
All right, and there he is, Daby Cab joining us. Cab, what do you think here, Missouri, Alabama?
Yeah, C-Mac kind of touched on it there. Alabama, I know they hit a little bit of a rough patch, you can say. They lost their first 2 SEC games in their last 6 games, but really, like I said, it was their first 2 losses in the conference. And they've had a little bit of a reset here, right? They've had some time off, since they got the first 2 buys. And I think that might have played into it because yesterday they looked rejuvenated, man. That team was out there just absolutely fucking attacking the glass. And you said it too. Alabama handled Missouri pretty easily in this first one, in their last meeting. And I think Alabama, they're not going to be shy about shooting threes. They're going to throw it up. And this Missouri team struggles. They're 13th in the SEC in 3-point defense. I just think Alabama's too much for them here, and I think Alabama's hit that reset button. So, yeah.
Yeah, if anything here, I'd like the over a little bit, but it's very high, 157.5 for for an early game. It's a little tough to get to the window with an over that of that magnitude. All right, Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. A&M 6-point favorites, 140 the total. I like Vanderbilt here. What can I say, guys? I mean, they're just piping hot. And look, I love this A&M team too. Don't get me wrong. What they did last night against Arkansas was impressive, but there is something really, really special right now with Vanderbilt. They've won 5 in a row. They've covered 5 in a row. They beat Kentucky twice now. They're just it's basically ride this hot team. That's what I'm going to do right now. And, they're playing with great energy. Ezra Mannion was terrific last night. Tyron Lawrence, Jordan Wright. And look, this is a team that had talent coming into the year, but it took them a while to gel. They had a horrible first month or two, but they are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They played great. They've had some good wins too. Tennessee, they beat Kentucky twice. So there's been some solid teams on their resume that they've been able to beat this year. They faced A&M once this year, and they covered in that game. They were 9.5-point dogs at A&M, and they lost by 6. So to me, I look at this game here, and Vanderbilt is just, they're riding high. They've been on this incredible straight up and ATS streak. They covered in the first meeting against A&M, 6-point loss. Now they're playing them on a neutral court, and they're getting 6 here in this game. And that's still the one thing about A&M. You look at a lot of their wins, right? 5-point win, 6-point win, 5-point win, 8-point win, and 2 6-point win. I mean, they don't win by bigger margins. I think there's room for Vanderbilt to hang tough here in this game. You worry that maybe, they hit a wall at some point, but I'm going to hope they not. Maybe if you want to be safer, do a first half full game split on Vanderbilt, but I will be on Vanderbilt here. No question. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I think if you could get the hook would be maybe important too. If you can get the 6.5 here with Vandy, but the problem is this is a different defense with A&M. We talked about it yesterday. I liked A&M, and they kind of just wear teams down, especially late. The last 10 minutes, and that's what could happen here. But you mentioned it, 6-point win earlier this year. It's tough for me. I've been all over both these teams. Like if I get 6.5, I might look at Vandy. They're just red hot, but I think A&M wins here, because of their defense. So I look under.
Yeah, which is very good. And I do have a future, by the way, on A&M to win this SEC tournament. So
what number you got?
I got to bring up I'll give you in a second. Cab, what do you think here?
I'm about to say, no wonder you're taking Vanderbilt. You're going to be happy no matter what happens right here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, Vanderbilt does come in hot, but so does A&M. 9-1 ATS right now, last 10 games. Yep. And that Buzz Williams defense, like C-Mac was touching on, has just been outstanding, especially in the front court. And when we talk about this defense, the Aggies have held, well, they were only 11th in the SEC in scoring, but they've held 8 straight opponents under 70 points. So they've really turned it up like of late. And, Vanderbilt has the 11th scoring offense in the SEC. I know they were shooting unconscious yesterday, but I don't know if I see them repeating that. I agree with you, though. It's just it's a little steep, man. I'd like to have this number at maybe 4.5 or 5.5. But I'm off this game.
All right, nothing wrong with that. All right, next up, we've got the Big Ten semifinals, Ohio State and Purdue. Purdue 7.5-point favorites, 133.5 the total in this one. This is like the last game for me. If I'm betting this game, I'm, believe it or not, kind of trying to ride the hot hand here in Ohio State in some form, but I might split it up. I mean, Purdue to me is still just miserable covering numbers. I mean, even yesterday, they got off to that awful start against Rutgers. They did have a better second half. They did finally get going a bit. And still, I mean, it was too little too late. They just don't make enough shots. Okay, that's the problem with Purdue. They don't make enough shots. The guard play is not good enough for them to be trustworthy, in my opinion, as 7.5-point favorites on a neutral court. They just go through droughts. They'll go through 4 or 5 minute scoring droughts. That's not good when you're laying this kind of number. It's not. And I was friggin' impressed with Ohio State. I mean, they whipped Michigan State. They were just ahead, start to finish, wire to wire. They were in control of that game. And and without Sensabaugh, who didn't play last night in that game for Ohio State. So I think at some point, maybe that injury does show up. But how do you have confidence with Purdue right now? I mean, it's just time after time after time. They're either losing or they're winning, but barely by the skin of their teeth. So it is concerning right now to lay points with Purdue. And does Ohio State now, with all the games they've played, do they run out of gas in the second half? You do have to guard that big behemoth and Goliath known as Zach Edey. Do you wear down maybe later in the game? So this definitely feels like if you like Ohio State, grab the first half full game and maybe split it up. This does feel like an under as well, and the betting markets are onto that. This total's being bet down as we speak. Connor, what do you think? First Big Ten semi, Ohio State, Purdue.
Shout out to the chat, our guy. Yeah, with Sensabaugh in this game, will they kind of miss him? I mean, they didn't yesterday, that's for sure. His team's won 6 ATS, 5 of 6, and 6 ATS. I just ride them. They're right now with Purdue. I think you just don't lay a number with them. I mean, maybe they cover. I wouldn't put my money on them. And maybe they blow out Ohio State. What do we see? The old Ohio State, but the last 2 weeks or so. I'd grab the points here. I think it would be a lower scoring game, and I think it's valuable to 7.5.
I mean, if you're betting strictly who's been the red hot point spread team and who's not, I mean, you have to be on Ohio State here. I mean, 1 and 6 ATS, Purdue last 7, and Ohio State suddenly covered 6 straight after being just toxic for essentially.
Purdue wins by 5.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. It's what it sounds like to me. Cap, what do you think here?
I think that literally what C-Mac just said. I think the Cinderella story for Ohio State comes to an end right here, but I don't think it comes to like a screeching halt. I think it's a competitive game, down to the wire for the most part. You look at this Ohio State team, and I was somebody who, whenever they started just absolutely falling off the face, was like, well, this team has a lot of talent. They're just not playing good. I've been saying that like over and over again. You look at this team, man. They're shooting 46.3% as a team, which is great. 71st in the country. They're 84th in free throws, 74.1%. From the 3-point line, they're 36.6%, which is 60th in the country. This team can play. They've got players, and I've said that all year. It's not really like a huge surprise to me that Ohio State's doing this right now. It's more of a surprise to me what they did in the middle of the season, if that makes sense, than what they're doing right now. So, I don't know. I'm off this game. I think you guys hit it on the head. I think Ohio State loses, but I think they probably lose by, maybe 2 baskets.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting.
I mean, maybe they get blown out. I mean, it wouldn't be shocking, but the way Purdue is laying numbers, why do you really?
They just let teams hang around because they don't get enough scoring from their guards consistently. It's really that simple. Yeah.
And Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan State. I'm not trying to take anything away from any of those teams, but that's not. They got a pretty easy little fucking schedule to get to this point right here. I'm not. Yeah. I mean, compared to what it could have been. Compared to what it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that seems like every team. And it's
true. The Big Ten's
all
down.
These teams are like, yeah.
I mean, people are acting shocked that we've got a 10 seed Penn State in the semifinals and Ohio State in the semifinals. Look at the Big Ten this year. nobody's that great. Anybody can
Exactly.
beat anybody. That's why we're seeing Penn State and Ohio State in the Big Ten semifinals pulling upsets here in the Big Ten tournament. Speaking of Penn State, they play Indiana, second Big Ten semifinal. It is Indiana rather, 4-point favorites, 139 being the total here in this game. Indiana took care of Maryland yesterday. Penn State had to extend. They went to overtime against Northwestern last night, but they pulled it out 67-65. This is a team that's gone 6-1 in their last 7 games. So it's kind of like the last game we talked about. It's kind of the red hot surging underdog. Do you want to step in front of them? But, can Seth Lundy, can Jalen Pickett, can Andrew Funk, can those guys bring it like they did yesterday? And remember, they had to play an overtime game against Northwestern. So this is one where I don't buy into Penn State being able to duplicate it. I think Indiana probably is going to win. I'll probably find a way to bet Indiana here in terms of a money line parlay of some kind. Like, I'm not laying 4 with Indiana, but I think in a money line parlay of some kind, that's the way I'm going to look to potentially go as far as this game is concerned. I know the under is taking money here between these two teams, but you look at it, Penn State, they've gone over 8-2 in their last 10. Indiana's gone over 4 of their last 5 games. This total's, being bet down a little bit to 139. I might lean over. And we did see over in the series meeting between these two teams as well. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, that game, Penn State shot the lights out, like 18 of 31 from 3. I mean, and that can happen with them. If they get ice cold, Indiana could win here by 10, and that might happen.
Only the third game in 3 days for Penn State, by the way. It's 4-4 for Ohio State. It's only 3-3 for Penn State, so not quite as bad.
Yeah, I think Indiana is just more physical. Get it to Davis down low. But I still, these guards, Pickett, Funk, Lundy, like we talked about the last few days. Good guard play can keep you going. I lean the points with Penn State.
All right, Cab.
Yeah, I took Indiana at this one. I got them earlier. I had to pay a little juice for it. I got 2.5 minus 115, and I think it's at 3 or even 3.5 now. But it's what C-Mac said. I think they're going to get it done in their front court here. What we really need though is for Indiana is for Shafino to keep stepping up. I think he could be the kicker because, like we said, we need to slow these guards down. We need Pickett to slow down. But I like Indiana here. I just, they lost. They've got a little bit of a revenge angle because they lost last time against Penn State, and they didn't just lose. They got shit on. They got stomped. And Indiana should have a bunch of fans at this game. It's what they do. And this game should be loaded. This should kind of feel like a home game for Indiana. I like Indiana here.
All right, like in Indiana, the Hoosiers in this one to get the job done. Okay, we move along now. Next up, it is the AAC semifinals, American Athletic Conference, Cincinnati, Houston. Houston 10-point favorites, 136 the total in this game. I said to you yesterday when I was with Jimmy the Bag, that point spread was outrageous. I know Houston's a great team, but we're really going to lay 23 points with somebody in a neutral court game. And I mean, that was East Carolina comfortably inside the number the whole game. They lost by 14, and it was still a no sweat if you took plus 23 in that game like I did with East Carolina. So you look at this matchup. Look, Houston's a team that's just, they're not winning games by big margins. I mean, their point spread record's been rough. I mean, I know they're one of the best teams in the country. There's no question. And their defense is just, when it gets locked in, that defense, we saw it in the second half against ECU yesterday. 16 of 51, they hold the Pirates in terms of shooting. It's deadly, but they're still only 1-6 ATS their last 7 games. They've had a hard time covering numbers. We'll see how they fare here against this Cincinnati Bearcats team. They played twice during the regular season. Houston won by 13 in the first meeting at Cincinnati. Cincinnati was much better in the return match at Houston, where they lost only by 6, 75-69 in that game. So this is one for me for sure where Cincinnati does appeal to me because I think, Houston's just having issues building margins, but this is definitely first half full game split. I think this is what I'm going to be looking to do with some of these underdogs today is maybe look toward the first half because this is one thing you noticed about Houston is that they really got that defense going in the second half yesterday against East Carolina. And, that's when they started to pull away after it was close at halftime against ECU. So, definitely, I think I like what I saw from Cincinnati, albeit it was against Temple, which, isn't saying much. But the last couple of games against bad teams, but, 27 point or 17 point, 23 point win and a 30-point win for Cincinnati in their last two games. Micah Adams-Woods has been absolutely outstanding. Landers Noli, the transfer, 22 points. They've gotten some really good contributions. They've tightened things up defensively. They held Temple to just 33% shooting, 25% from three-point range. If you're going to have a shot against Houston, you've got to be able to try to match them defensively. Cincy has been able to do that here the last couple. So I do like Cincy a little bit, and I'm going to go probably with a split here, first half, full game, because I could see them wearing out late. I mean, you just get worn out playing this Cougars team, especially having to execute against that defense. But I do think they can hang particularly early. So first half, full game split, Bearcats for me. Connor, what do you think here? Cincy, Houston.
Yeah, real quick. That Houston game, I watched the whole game. That was just pathetic. They looked like they were just like, the whole game. That was pretty sad to see. They better be ramped up here. And Sasser was the only one really scoring in that game yesterday. I'm taking the 10 with Cincy. Too many points. I think Houston, there's too much love with them. And maybe they beat them down, but, value spot, your neutral floor, I want the 10.
All right, Cab.
Yeah. Everyone knows like Houston first half is something that I love, but I haven't been betting it of late, and I'm damn sure not betting it today. I think you guys hit it on the head. Only thing I'd watch out for Cincinnati is they've struggled a little bit defensively in recent games. They've given up more than 73 points per game. And this is a Cougars team that, like you said, C-Mac, they looked awful yesterday. So the only thing I would worry about is maybe like some kind of spark, because that was just hard to watch. But I think Cincinnati is going to be extremely highly motivated coming into this game. And I think 10 points might just be a little too much. I'm off this game completely. But yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got the other semifinal in the AAC. It is Tulane and Memphis. Memphis 6-point favorites, 161.5 the total in this game. I'm on Tulane here. Tulane's been my team all year. I mean, I love this group. The defense is a little leaky at times, but man, again, they score. They can fill it up offensively. They play extremely fast. They make it tough. They put pressure on the defense. And Memphis really had no answers for them in either of the two regular season meetings. I mean, now we're laying 6 with Memphis. They've had a tough matchup. It's been a bad matchup. It's proven to be a bad matchup for Memphis each time this year. You can get 6 with Tulane. I'm taking 6 with Tulane. And I certainly would really wanted to bet over the total in this game, but I mean, they didn't put it out there as a bargain, did they? I mean, 161 is what we're looking at here with this total, Tulane and Memphis. That's a really high number, but the two games did, soar over the total this season between them. I still lean that way, but man, it's a high number for a semifinal conference tournament game. I like Tulane though, lean over as well. C-Mac, what do you think here, Tulane, Memphis?
Yeah, both those games, got over this number. I think there's a bunch of points here again. I think it can get over again, even at 160. And they couldn't stop Tulane. Tulane's not going to stop Memphis. The difference is now I like Tulane, these points, catching them. I really don't like Lane. They got it done yesterday, so shout out to them. But
did you see how it happened, C-Mac? I thought I was going to have a fucking heart attack. Did anybody see what Memphis did at the end of that damn game?
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry. Just
Take them. Go ahead.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. So, and for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, Kendrick Davis pulled down a rebound with 4 seconds on the clock, and he wasn't going to get fouled. They were going to let the game end, and that dumbass just took a step and started celebrating and walking. So the ref called a travel. Fuck, almost blew the cover. It was not fun. It was not fun to watch, but it still got the cover with them, so that's good. I think it's too many points here too. I've been on Memphis situationally, and they've been good lately. 6 of their last 7 road games they've won. Offensively, they've been scoring more than 75 points per game in their last 3 games, doing that at a 48% clip, which is pretty good. I don't think there's going to be any lack of offense in this game. But Tulane showed that they can keep up with this Memphis team, and they've kept the number within this both of the last 2 times these two teams meet. I don't see any reason why they can't do it again. I'd be on Tulane or pass here.
All
Good
right,
free throw shooting team too. Tulane.
That's what you want to see. They're one of the few teams, not one of the few, but there are a bunch of others that can shoot well, but there's a lot that are bad. This is one you can rely on because they're good. You're right when it comes to making their free throws, no question. All right, next up here on the slate, we've got, as we go along here, it is the SWAC, I believe. Yep, SWAC Championship, Texas Southern and Grambling State. It is a bid will be decided here for the NCAA tournament. We've got Grambling State, sizable favorite here in this game against. It's three. Actually, not as sizable as I thought. Actually, it was 6. Wow, there's been some movement here. Holy shit! Grambling State opened 6.5. It's down to 3. 3-point favorites now. 130 the total. That's a huge move on Texas Southern. Wow. In this game. That's an absolutely massive move. And look, Texas Southern's been one of the best teams in this conference for many years. There's no doubt. But, I mean, now we're talking only 3 points now to lay with Grambling. And Grambling's just been this freight train pretty much. I mean, they've been absolutely outstanding. They won and covered against Jackson. It wasn't easy, but they pulled away late. And they have just been, what are they, 10-0 straight up, 9-1 against the spread. You know, it's not easy to go against this team right now. That's for sure. They have definitely had their share of it. They've been great at both ends of the floor. You can argue they've been the best team here in the SWAC this season. No question about that. They beat down Texas Southern 65-46 in the most recent meeting. And they beat them by 13 in the game before that, 85-72 back in January. I mean, I understand taking Texas Southern maybe at 6.5, because this is a pretty good basketball team as well. They got the job done against Alabama A&M, 74-61 yesterday to advance to this championship game. But, I mean, Grambling State's now laying only 3. It's hard to get in their way. I mean, they look like they've been the class of the SWAC all season, and I honestly think they're going to win. So now I'd probably be interested in a money line here with Grambling State. It's come down so low that money line now on them is only minus 155 in some spots. So, you know, I might just go with that, a minus 155 money line on Grambling State. This number's moved, but I think it's moved just too much. This is a really good Grambling team. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, the total here is just a little bit low, but I still look under. I get the 6.5. Now that it's 3, I think Grambling, I'll take the 3 with them. I think they beat them cover here. I don't trust Texas Southern. Not the same team this year. I know they've won the last couple, but no, Grambling, lay the 3.
Like, I am stunned. This is the SWAC championship, and look at the 3.5-point move on the SWAC championship game. That is something you don't always see every day. That is for sure. But no, I like Grambling now. Grambling beat Vandy earlier in non-conference play. Let's not forget that. This is a team that was actually able to punch up in weight class and play pretty well. So this is
great defense,
quality team. Yeah, really, really great. Good defensive team. No question about that. Cab, what do you think here?
Yeah, you know, I would have leaned Grambling at the 6.5. I wasn't going to bet it, but I was leaning at them with the 6.5. So you're giving it a fucking 3 now? Like, yeah, I mean, that's just a little fishy. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I'd probably just take it with them and not worry too much about it. 7-2, their last 9 neutral site games, so they've been great. Like I said, I'm not rushing to bet this one. That's very confusing why it's moved so much.
Next up, we've got the Mountain West Championship, Utah State, San Diego State, Thomas and Mack Center. We've got San Diego State currently 2-point favorites in this one, total 137.5 here across the board. I'm on Utah State, believe it or not, here, Connor, and I'm going against the old guard of the Mountain West, that being San Diego State. But I don't know, there's something about Utah State. They've got some really solid chemistry going at both ends of the floor. Bairstow has been great. Obviously Taylor Funk, huge for them in the last couple of wins that they've had. And they didn't even play that great against Boise, but they grinded their way through that one, relied on their defense, and they were able to get the job done. But, you know, they've got that trio going for them right now. Bairstow, Funk, Ashworth, the point guard. I mean, they've been absolutely outstanding for Utah State. And I think going into this matchup here, we're going to end up seeing Utah State. I think they can complete this. And I think Utah State right now is in the tournament, but man, they will leave no doubts whatsoever if they win this game and get the automatic bid by winning the Mountain West. I like the way they're playing right now. San Diego State obviously is a formidable foe. And yes, San Diego State did beat them twice during the regular season, but the last game was real close. 63-61 was right down to the wire. We'll have to wait and see if this if San Diego State can keep that success going. But man, it just feels like there's something going on with Utah State that's special. They're a slight dog. I'm taking them +2. I know I'm going heads up against this really, really good San Diego State team. We know what they've got with Bradley, with Mensah. It's a really, really good team, both ends of the floor. But I'm going to take Utah State. I've been on Utah State the last 2 games, right? How am I going to jump ship now? Conor, what do you think?
Utah State red hot, they covered 7 straight. Yeah, I remember that game because I was on them. San Diego State went in there and won. That the big key was that night, 5-19 from 3. They just hit some more in that game. They win it, and I think that's the key today. But I think you look under. I think this game is a tight one in the Mountain West. It's tough for me to go against San Diego. They can struggle, scoring. San Diego State. They can go in some droughts that are just ugly. You know what? I don't know if I have to get involved here. Maybe this is a game I bet live. I don't blame anyone that's hot with Utah State or want the old guard in San Diego State. So take it away, Kev.
I got you. See, I'm not in the same boat as you, Ian. I've been on Utah State also. I cashed in the first game with them, but I had them first half yesterday and got burned, which was frustrating as hell. But the truth is, I'd only go back to them here in this spot. I know they lost the first 2 matchups, but this team is they're firing on all cylinders right now. 48.3 from beyond the arc, putting up 79.2 points per game. This team's just hot. I just worry that I worry that this is a little bit of a mismatch for him. Somebody in the chat, shout out to our chat. Where was it? I think it was Craig Wood. Yeah, Craig Wood said he watched the first game, or he watched the road game for him, and this was a mismatch. I kind of see that too. That's why I'm off this, but I lean Utah State.
Leaning toward Utah State here as well. All right, we go to the Big 12 championship. Texas, Kansas. Kansas 2-point favorites. 142 the total in this game. It's Kansas or pass for me. I mean, this is me learning my lesson after the last 2 days, because I took West Virginia and Iowa State like a stubborn guy the last 2 games against Kansas, thinking, okay, the Bill Self stuff. There's more important games on the horizon in the tournament. They don't care about the Big 12 tournament. Well, they clearly do, because they've played excellent here in the last 2 games. So there's no way I'm going against Kansas a 3rd straight day when I've lost the first 2 times. And look, I think in this game here, Texas is nice job winning against TCU. TCU didn't have Lampkin though last night. To me, this is Kansas's time. Kansas City. It's a pseudo de facto home game for the Jayhawks. They play this game all tournament every year in Kansas City, the Sprint Center. And they clearly, I think actually the Bill Self's medical scare, it's actually galvanized the team to say, hey, let's get this conference tournament done. Let's show what we can do without our coach here. And they're playing with that spirit. They're playing great at both ends of the floor. Their offensive difference makers have all shown up, including Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick and company. And they've played as outstanding defense as well so far in this Big 12 tournament. Kansas or nothing for me. I don't know if I'll bet it, but I certainly wouldn't be interested in anything but the Kansas side here. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, Kansas kind of at home here. I'm with them as well. I think it's Kansas or nothing. Texas just beat them. Kansas already had that locked up, just what was that, last week where they beat them at home here. This is a short number, and Texas
Penn,
is very
too,
good.
you're right. Texas crushed them in Austin, but we like Texas that day.
Yeah,
we were on this show on that Saturday, all 3 of us saying it's a Texas spot all the way, and it was a Texas spot. Today, I think it's a little different. Yep.
I agree. I think it's just Kansas or nothing here.
All right, Cab.
Yeah, it's that spot. That last game was absolutely a perfect Texas spot. The last time it was senior day, Texas needed the win. Everything lined up for Texas that last game. Their first meeting, I want to say it was like an 8-point win for Kansas. So it's not just a complete mismatch. It was a perfect day for them. I bet Kansas here. I got them. I paid some juice for it because I got the money line in the first half at -120. But yeah, I like Kansas here. Like you said, Jalen Wilson has just been outstanding in this tournament. Grady Dick was cold coming into the tournament, and he's heated back up, which is good to see. And Texas is going to be without Allen down low, which is still, he hasn't been with them. He's still not going to be there. Yeah, and they're coming off a really tough game against TCU yesterday. Hard fought win. I just think Kansas. I think Kansas gets up into the 60s and they leave Texas down, or Kansas gets up into the 70s and leaves Texas down in the 60s here. So I like Kansas.
All right, liking Kansas here. All right, next up here we've got the Big East Championship, Xavier and Marquette. Marquette 2-point favorites, 154 the total in this game. These two teams completely effed it up for me. I was expecting and hoping to see a UConn Creighton Big East Championship game, and we got neither one there. And I don't know what the hell UConn was doing at the end. You talk about totally screwing up the end game sequence. They did that. Well, how about you call a timeout? How about you diagram a play? Well, why do you force up some three? You could play for overtime. Just get the game to overtime at least. I mean, it just felt so rushed, so forced. It was terrible execution down the stretch by UConn in that loss against Marquette. And then on the flip side, look, Xavier just totally outplayed Creighton start to finish. I was rather shocked by that. Creighton was that bad, and their offense could do nothing against that Xavier defense. I don't know. This is, to me, flip a coin. And in a flip a coin game, I say take the dog or pass. So the dog is Xavier here. I guess I lean Xavier, but I'm not in a rush to bet a side here. But I am interested to watch this game. Should be a good one. Conor, what do you think here? Big East title game.
I feel the same way. I mean, Marquette had a 1-point win. Xavier won by 4. I think this can go back and forth, shots back and forth, either team. If you have to give the 2, I take the dog, but I'm not betting it. This is a watch for me as well.
All right, Cab.
Exact same boat. I just to add on to what you guys are saying about take the dog, I'd take them in the first half. So if it's tied, I still win, but I'm not doing that. If I had a free bet, that's what I'd do. But I'm not betting this game. There's no reason why this game shouldn't be back and forth. And I completely misread Xavier yesterday. I thought Creighton was going to win that game, and they got shit on. So I'm off right now.
All right, we go to we've got the MAC and the MAC championship back to back. First, it's the MAAC, the MAC. The Metro Atlantic Championship, Marist and Iona. I can't believe Marist is in this title game. This was a team that looked like out of 353 teams. I shit you not, they looked like the 350th team in college basketball at one point this year. Somehow in this cracked out conference, they're in the championship game here. They just get red hot at the right time. That's exactly what's happened here. They're 14.5, 15-point underdogs at Iona, who have just, been the class of the conference all season, and absolutely they should win this game. It's just a question of do they win this game by enough of a margin? I'm not so sure about that because we saw against Niagara yesterday, they won, but they didn't cover. So you're laying a huge, huge, huge number. But the problem with Marist is the offense is still not great. They miss a shit ton of free throws. And it almost bit them against St. Peter's. St. Peter's was actually worse at the free throw line. That's why St. Peter's lost. St. Peter's had a chance to get back into that game last night, and they kept missing free throws left and right. But Iona, the problem is if Iona gets up by 10 or 15 here, it could be lights out for Marist. I mean, Marist in the first half I could see being a decent bet because Iona did play better in the second half against Niagara. I'm going to be tempted slightly by Marist in the first half, but I don't know with great confidence because to me, if Iona's defense plays well, their offense is not going to be shut out by Marist like St. Peter's was, and it could lead to this game getting away from Marist. But I think Marist in the first half might be a bet I sprinkle a few bucks on. Nothing with extreme confidence, but again, this is a lot of points for a championship game. I don't even know there seems to be a gap between these two teams. What do you think here, Conor?
There is a gap. Here. Niagara really got it done that first half and still hung on for the cover. This South Marist is in it. Their defense. They got a pretty good defense, and that's what they got them here. The last 3 games is just holding these teams down with that defense. So if they do that, 15's too much. But they got to score a little bit, and they're dreadful. You know what I mean? And what Iona team do we get? If they're red hot, they win and cover, but I'd lean the points. I know Marist it's not very good, but I'd take the 15 if I had to.
All right, Cab.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with this because this is the type of game where if Iona's up by, 16 or 17 points with 3 minutes left, there is no reason why they can't take their foot off the gas and win by 10 or 11 points, and you'll see a backdoor cover. So I want nothing to do with this game.
Yeah, look at these last 3 games, 50, 59, 57, and their defense wasn't that great all year. It's pretty good. Marist, I mean, can they do something like that again? I don't think so. But,
A lot more weapons, interior
Yes.
weapons, perimeter weapons for Iona than anything they've seen so far in this tournament. So we'll see. But this is Iona's clearly going to win this bat. There's no way straight up they're losing this game. That would be that would be one of the upsets of all time, honestly, because of just Marist coming from one of the worst teams in college basketball. If they were to beat Iona today and make the NCAA tournament, it would be shocking. But all they need is the one game of their lifetime from these Marist Red Foxes, these kids on Marist, and that's all it takes. All right, we go from the Metro Atlantic to the other MAC. This is that MAC, the regular MAC championship game, Kent State and Toledo. This actually is one of the games of the day, in my opinion, on paper. You've got Toledo here, slight favorites. Looks like they are 1-point favorites here, 148.5 the total in this one. Now, I love my Toledo overs. I love them, and I'll be betting them again here over the total. But they did stay under yesterday against Ohio, and it was because, look, their offense wasn't as good as it's been at times. It's funny. It just felt watching that game like their offense was a little bit off, and yet at the end of the day, they still scored 82 points. That tells you how just explosive and just extremely potent Toledo is offensively with Milner, with Maddox, with Ray J. Dennis. And by the way, what a matchup this is going to be in terms of guard play. Sincere Carey for Kent State and Ray J. Dennis for Toledo. What a guard matchup this is in this championship game. I still got to side with Toledo. Toledo at a pick 'em -1. I like the way they've been rolling here down the stretch. This is all due respect to Kent State, who have put together a nice 5-game win streak down the stretch. But, Bowling Green, Akron was a nice win. Ohio, NIU, they beat Akron again. They just seem to have Akron's number, this Kent State team. But Toledo, I like the way they're playing. And look, their defense gets ripped on. That their defense is their Achilles heel. They defend when they have to. They don't have to be this lights-out defensive team. Just defend and keep possessions at critical times when you have to. And they did that yesterday against Ohio. They got stops when they needed it, and that was good enough for them in that game. So I'm going to roll with Toledo here. Toledo did lose at Kent State back in January, 75-63. It was the only meeting between these two teams. But that was a long time ago. I think Toledo has really found their footing now. So I'm going to roll with Toledo money line and over 148.5 here with the total in this game. This is definitely a game I'm very much excited about. What do you think here, Conor? MAC championship, Kent State, Toledo.
Kent State, too, a little bit as of late. Kind of went over because the meeting with the last few have gone under. They've been lower scoring. Is that again here? Are we going to get points? So the first half should be a good one to see. This is a flip a coin because I think Kent State's kind of had their number, but I've been so impressed with Toledo. Where they won like 15 in a row or more, just red hot. I think you just get the popcorn and watch this one.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I want to see Toledo in that tournament. I really do. No, Kent State with Sincere Carey would be a nice to see them in the tournament too, but especially
Both
Toledo because they're just more of a incredibly well-rounded offensive team, and they would give someone a ton of problems in a first-round matchup later this week, no doubt. Cab, what do you think here?
I'd lean Toledo with you. You look at these two teams, pretty evenly matched, but one place where they're not is on offense. Toledo's 9th in college basketball with 119.5 offensive rating, while Kent State's sitting at 135th, still above average, but they're supporting a 107.4. And a big reason for that is just the 3-point ability. So Toledo can shoot from beyond the arc a lot better. I like Toledo here also. I don't have a problem with that bet.
All right, Conference USA Championship game, UAB, Florida Atlantic. And, man, Florida Atlantic almost didn't get here as Middle Tennessee State gave them a huge scare yesterday. We got UAB 2-point favorites, 148.5 the total in this game. I agree with the move. I think that UAB, I think, is going to – first of all, we have to put the situation into context here. Florida Atlantic is in the NCAA tournament, even if they lose this game. They will get an at-large because of the record in the season they've had. And, they had some good results in non-conference. Florida Atlantic will get into the tournament without winning this game. UAB has to win this game. UAB needs the automatic bid in order to get into the NCAA tournament. So I'm not saying that's the reason you bet UAB, but UAB with Jelly Walker back has found their game. because with him back, they've been outstanding. They've won 8 games in a row coming into this game. Remember, he missed some time. And remember when they played Florida Atlantic the first time, he was out for that game, 88-86. They got him back. They got Florida Atlantic back in February, 86-77 in the rematch. I like UAB here. I like the over as well. I never love betting overs in a championship game when they're this high, when we're almost talking almost 150. But I definitely think offense is the name of the game here on both sides. They're excellent offensive teams. UAB is going to push pace. We know they've got scores left and right, led by their floor general, Jelly Jordan Walker. And Florida Atlantic, don't sleep on their offensive abilities. Middle Tennessee State kind of, took them down into a slow grind, of a, slow half-court game. They're not going to have that with UAB. UAB is always going to push and transition. This will be a fun basketball game. I like over 148. 148.5 here. And I like UAB. I'll go UAB money line, of course, rather than the -2. UAB at -135. What do you think here, Connor? UAB, FAU.
Yeah, I'm with you here on the over. As much as I like a lot of unders in these, especially championship game, I think these teams get up and down. I don't think anything changes from the first 2 games, and they both got over this number. I thought as long as, it was like 147, right around here, 148, I think can get there. I don't know. I don't want to pick a side, but I like both these basketball teams. Pass. Take it away, Gab.
Yeah, you said what you said with the last game about being a popcorn game. This is a popcorn game for me. I don't really have I like both of these teams. I think this is going to be a great game. But that doesn't mean we have to bet it. I don't really have a feel for this. I feel like I'd be flipping a coin if I made a bet on it. So no reason for me to really even go into it.
All right. I mean, it's a great game. There's no question. I think I like the fact, though, that, again, when UAB had Walker against FAU, they really took it to FAU. And I think that could end up being the difference maker. And he just made all the key plays against North Texas. He was spectacular against North Texas yesterday in that game.
That's what I was going to say. He looks back to like how he was, because that injury, it took a minute. He was a little slow to go there. He looks, kid can score.
And North Texas is a seriously good defensive team, and they just ripped them apart with their offense yesterday. Very impressive UAB, and I think that translates into tonight. All right, ACC championship, Duke and Virginia here. We've got Duke, 3-point favorites, 123.5 the total in this game. See, this is my game where I say I sit back and I watch it. I don't know do I want to go up against Duke right now? Duke's red hot. Like, say what you will about how we shit on Duke earlier this year when they were struggling, but John Shire has gotten this team all clicking at the right time, both ends of the floor. Great win against Miami yesterday in the semifinal. I don't want to go against Duke right now, but Duke laying 3 now, and Virginia, has played very well in this tournament too. They dismantled Clemson, and Clemson needed that win desperately to further their NCAA tournament hopes. So, and Virginia is always a tricky matchup, especially when you have no prep time and you're turning around and you're playing Virginia the very next day. So this is, to me, what classic pass for me, where I don't want to go against either of these teams, especially at the number that it is currently, Duke -3. What do you think, Connor, here, ACC championship?
Yeah, now it's getting to 3. Duke, this was a great game. The crazy finish, and then Virginia won. They split the series, both games in the 60s. I think it's similar here today. And Virginia, I thought, it was really limping in here, and just unbelievable last night how they looked. Two hot teams. If I got maybe 3.5, I look Virginia. Maybe I'll bet this one live. But I think it's tight. I think we got a low scoring game. That's why the total's here. It could still stay under.
Yeah, very low total, 123.
That other game was going to stay under before OT.
Yep,
that last
definitely.
Game.
Yeah.
A bad call.
Would've. Yeah. Yeah, of course, OT.
Duke maybe remembers it.
Yeah. Yeah, OT, of course, with many games, usually kills you when it comes to the under. What do you think here, Cab?
I bet Duke. I got Duke -2.5 here. When you look at what Duke's done, they've won 8 straight games coming into this game. The last game they lost was against Virginia. And if you remember what happened in that game, depending on, I guess, who you bet on or who you're rooting for, Virginia committed a foul at the end of that game that should have put Duke on the line with the chance to win it.
Yeah, it was bullshit. That's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Exactly. I like Duke here with how hot they are, and also on the fact that they're going to want to come back and get back at Virginia here. A little bit of a revenge angle, also. I got Duke. I think Duke wins the tournament.
Right, liking Duke to get the job done here. Great momentum, and I think there's a desire here. Get the first ACC championship for John Shire. As head coach. I think there's something to that too, as well. We'll see. That's a good game, though. I'm looking forward to it, even though I won't be betting a side there. Big West Championship: CS Fullerton and Cal Santa Barbara. We've got UCSB now 3.5 4-point favorites, 130 the total in this game. Santa Barbara, we think of them as, defensive-minded, slower-paced team. But, man, that game that they played last night with Riverside, 92-87, that is very, very rare for Santa Barbara. That being said, they've suddenly transitioned, 7-1 to the over in their last 8 games. I can't believe it. Like, what's happened all of a sudden? They're scoring a ton, and I don't think their defense has nearly been as good during this stretch. They'll play a Fullerton team that's off an 83-80 win last night against Cal Irvine. Tough back and forth game, but they eventually hung on and got the win against a very good Cal Irvine team. I'll tell you what, Bart Torvik, great website for college basketball. They've got Fullerton favored in this game by 0.1 points. And yet here's Santa Barbara taking all the money up to 3.5, 4. I kind of like the Titans now at getting +4 with Fullerton. And I actually kind of lean over. How do you not? I mean, Santa Barbara is clearly not that same under team they were. They're ripping over these low totals. Their last several games, other than Cal Poly, who's a very poor offensive team, we've seen 177, 142, 165, 158, 151, 134, 137. They had 129 with Irvine, which would barely fall under this total. And then they had 158 before that. That's the last 10 games for the Gauchos. So that's why, to me, this total looks just a little bit too low, and I'll play it up and over. Plus, you get a championship game. You could get fouls late. That's going to help the cause as well. Connor, what do you think here? Fullerton, UCSB.
Yeah, there's a couple of 4s out there. I'm on Fullerton here. I think the thing is the second half of the year or in conference play, it's their defense. And I think that's what keeps them in this game. They can struggle, on the offensive end, get Fullerton. But yeah, give me Fullerton. And I might be at this game tonight. Give me the 4. I'll take a money line as well.
There you go. And go see Connor Mack at the game. He might be making the trip to the Dollar Loan Center
might be at the Dollar
in Henderson there tonight for the Big West Championship. Cab,
Cross from Green Valley Ranch. Check it out.
Yeah. Muted. First time today. Not bad.
Fuck.
Yeah.
C-Mac hit it, and I was gonna shout out our guy Rod Z in the chat, man. Shout out to him. Maybe a money line look here, because this game should be, where it opened, in my opinion, closer to a pick'em. You look at what these teams did earlier in the year. They split. Barbara got the first victory, 66-58, and then Fullerton took the next one, 74-60. Like I said, I feel like this should be closer to a pick'em. So at that line where it's at, yeah, I think you take the points and maybe a little bit of the money line too.
All right, next up, we've got only a couple of games left. Pac-12 championship, Arizona and UCLA. I wonder how much will be in the system of Bill Walton before tonight's game, because he was definitely he was loonier than normal, and that's saying something last night during that Arizona State Arizona game. We've got UCLA 1-point favorites, 147.5 the total in this game. This is kind of like that. What did I say about Kansas? And what have I said about Duke here so far? That the teams that seem to be on a mission, maybe that's UCLA, that, hey, we've got no Jalen Clark. They lost Adem Bona as well last night in the game to injury against Arizona State. And somehow, some way, they still found ways to win. They just blew the doors off Oregon down the stretch. So much for another tournament run for Dana Altman in Oregon. That came to a screeching halt last night against UCLA. But at the same time, I also feel that, wait a minute, Oregon, is still not as good as UCLA, and they couldn't take advantage of no Jalen Clark and obviously the injury to Adem Bona last night. Arizona might be able to. This is a different caliber here. taking on this Arizona Wildcats team. So I'm conflicted in this game. Matchup-wise, point spread-wise, I want to take Arizona here. I want to take the Wildcats here as a slight dog. But, there is that we'll show you type of attitude we're seeing from UCLA. And Mick Cronin needs to be commended because he's had players ready to step up and fill bigger roles with some of these injuries. Can they keep it going for another day? And let's be honest, they played Oregon, they played Colorado. The competition is going to increase significantly here tonight against this loaded Arizona team. So it's a really fascinating game. I lean Zona, but man, this UCLA team's got heart. They got guts. They've got the injuries. They've overcome them. I don't know if they'll be able to do that again tonight. I'll be honest. So I'm leaning Arizona. Connor, what do you think here? Great one here in the Pac-12.
Yeah, it's talking about Arizona guard. He is sloppy. It's going to cost Arizona late. I think Clark, though, not this game, UCLA can win, but I think that hurts them. Maybe win it at all when I thought they could with UCLA. I still think they have the better defense. So if you give me that, give me the Bruins. But Arizona could beat them. That's why this game's a pick 'em -1. I'll be watching.
All right, there you go. Cab, what do you think?
This is a chance for Arizona to get a little checklist done. They got their revenge on Arizona State. Now they can come get their revenge on UCLA here. They lost 73-82 in the last game. I wanted UCLA. I still kind of do, but bonus status is, it's huge for me. There's not just a drop off in production. There's a clear drop off in talent here. Like this is going to hurt them, and I think CMAC touched on it. I'm interested to see if UCLA can still. I had UCLA primed to make a run in my head, and I'm not so sure anymore.
Me too.
Yeah, so because of all that, and because injuries are something I usually stay away from, I'm off this game. I kind of lean Arizona, but I don't feel good about it because UCLA is one of my favorite teams. So.
Yeah, definitely. And again, they've overcome a lot already to get this far without key pieces, and we'll see if that can carry over here to this game tonight here against Arizona. All right, we've got the WAC championship game. This is our final game on this edition of the College Basketball Pub Up Show. Grand Canyon and Southern Utah. This is the latest game to tip off tonight. This game will begin at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 9:30 p.m. On the West Coast. It is at the Orleans Arena, Las Vegas. We've got Southern Utah and Grand Canyon Pick'em here, 148 the total. Southern Utah, how much energy did they expend coming back from the dead against Utah Valley? That was insane last night, down over 20 points. They come all the way back and somehow win that game and won on a made three-pointer. So it was a 4-point play that put them over the top. You're sick to your stomach this morning if you're Utah Valley losing that game, but give Southern Utah credit. Todd Simon, very good coach for Southern Utah. The Thunderbirds done a nice job there with that team. How much gas is in the tank, first of all, and can they take down this Grand Canyon squad who have played pretty well here in this conference tournament? You look at the regular season series, Grand Canyon beat them 83-78 at Southern Utah as 5-point dogs late in the season. They've won 5 in a row going into this game. I think Grand Canyon would have to be the side for me. I think this is definitely a sense for me where this team could run out of steam. Now, both teams, I should point out actually, Grand Canyon had to play the extra game. So this is their 4th game in this conference tournament, but it's not 4 games in 4 days. It's 4 games in 5 days. And whereas for Southern Utah, it's 3 games in 3 days for them. So which one do you basically say is the worst of the two situationally? But, to me, when I look at this matchup here, I like Grand Canyon a little bit. Your Grand Canyon overs, yes, Craig Wood. We've been going over the total a lot personally down the stretch of the regular season with the Grand Canyon squad. I think I would certainly lean that way again. Look, I had the over in that Utah Valley game. I thought it was dead, in the second half early. It looked like it was going to stay way under, and then it just exploded in that comeback by Southern Utah, and it got into the 170s. So I do like the over a little bit, and I'm going to go with Grand Canyon here. I just think it's going to be, I think, tough to see Southern Utah have that energy level in them to be able to duplicate and replicate what they did yesterday. I think it's going to be pretty tough. What do you think here, Connor? WAC championship.
Yeah, they just lost here, to Grand Canyon at home to end the year by 5. It's over. I took in all the Grand Canyon overs. This one, even at this number, in a championship game, it gets over. It just gets to the 150s, I think. And if Southern Utah's down, I'll look at them again. They have some shooters and they push pace. Yeah, I can't wait for this one. Points.
And both teams are in the 70s as well in their free throw shooting, so that's good too for the over as well. Both teams.
Oh yeah, and if they're a little low scoring, there could be a barrage in the second half.
Yeah, certainly if you bet live over or halftime over in the Utah Valley Southern Utah game, you ended up getting paid, and it ended up going very well for you doing that. Cab, what do you think here?
You guys did great. There's not a lot of separation between these two teams, so you could honestly make a case for either side, in my opinion. And that's not the type of game that I want to bet. If I had a free bet, I'd take Grand Canyon in the plus a half a point in the first half. 6-3 ATS is an underdog this season. But like I said, I feel like it's just too much of a toss-up. So if in that situation, I'd take the point or points, whatever you want to call it. It's just a point here. I'd take the half a point in the first half probably.
And by the way, if you look at the long-term numbers, and it's really telling, the 21-6 to the over in neutral site games combined in the last 27 neutral site games for these two teams, Grand Canyon and Southern Utah. 21-6 to the over. Yeah,
we're giving it now.
Yeah,
don't need it for best bet. Come on.
There you go. See, I knew Conor really liked this over. Look at him; he really likes it. There.
Yeah, I don't even need to say it. I'm not even going to say it on best bets. Just we got it. We did it here. Over. There you
go. Strongest bet of the night. The last game of the night as well. This one will be looking forward to it. All right, that's it.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. No, we have got a few games tomorrow. We are on tomorrow, by the way. We do have a Sunday edition of the Pub Up at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. It's a very short show tomorrow. Like, we won't even need a full hour for the show tomorrow, because all we have is the Ivy League Championship, A10 Championship, SEC Championship, AAC Championship, and the Big Ten Championship. So there's 5 games tomorrow on the Sunday slate. So it'll be a nice, quick get in, get out Sunday edition of the College Basketball Pub Hub. So short show. It'll probably be half an hour tops tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us for that. Hit the like button. 312 live viewers. Let's go. Show us the love. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. We'll be back to wrap the show with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Southtown 101, and manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports. 20% off your purchase, Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product. 20% off with promo code PubSports and free shipping as well. All right, best bets to wrap it up for this Saturday edition of the College Basketball Pub Hub. Connor, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
All right, let's get a little 3-pack here. Tulane plus 6.5. Take the points. Fullerton plus 4. Take them too. There's 3s now down to 2.5.
Wow.
Maybe they've been listening to us. And Kansas minus 1.5. They win today. That's it.
There we go. I like all of those actually. Good selections there for multiple best bets for Connor Mack. Daby Cab, what do you got for best bet?
I got you, man. So first off, I'm going to start with Indiana. I got them at minus 3. I actually got it at minus 2.5, but I think minus 3 is what you're going to have to bet now. I still endorse it. You'll push worst case. So take Indiana minus the 3. Kansas on the first half in the money line. I got them I paid -120 for it. So if you can get that, that's what I got it at. And then Duke, I think they're going to finish what they started and go ahead and get the W for the ACC championship here. I got Duke -2.5 at -102.
Dookie.
All right, there we go. Multiple best bets from Cab as well for this Saturday. Not so much for me. I always like trying to stick to one best bet here for the Saturday slate, and I'm going to do that with just one best bet. It's going to be Jelly Walker, and it's going to be the UAB Blazers. We're going to blaze a trail of glory to the winner's circle here. UAB -135 against Florida Atlantic, Conference USA Championship game. I think they get the job done here in this one here tonight. And just, again, he was spectacular against North Texas, who are an even better defensive team than Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic surviving Middle Tennessee. I think UAB is primed to win the Conference USA Championship game. And that's not going to make a lot of people on the bubble very happy, because if UAB wins that game tonight against Florida Atlantic, that means that's taking one bubble team spot off the NCAA tournament. So, and I think UAB will get that auto bid. UAB money line for me for best bet on this Saturday card. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the College Basketball Pub-Up Show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. And don't forget, we're back with you tomorrow on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific for another edition of the College Basketball Pub-Up Show. For Conor Mack, for Daby Cab, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy all the conference championship games, and good luck. And we'll see you again tomorrow on Sunday for another edition of the College Basketball Pub-Up Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Good.
Palooza 2 on the horizon. We're going to have live shows popping off in the South Town 101. We're going to have a poker tournament, a par 3 golf tournament, UFC San Antonio on the Saturday night. A lot of excitement. Palooza 2, baby.